Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Future Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Juliette Lamar, and joining us today is Eric Solis. He's the founder and CEO at MovoCash, and he's no stranger to Future Tech Podcast. We've had him on before, so welcome back, Eric.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Good to be back, Juliette.
So good to have you back again. I love it when we have returning guests because here at Future Tech Podcast, we really care about the companies who come in and talk to us and share their time. So when you come back, it's so nice to be able to recap, but then also see where you're going and what you've been up to. So for people who didn't hear the first podcast, let's give them a little overview about MovoCash and what you're doing over there.
Yeah, so MovoCash is a payments company that we think we, sort of have a unique spin by bundling what has been previously sort of disintegrated products and services. And it's this idea of approaching what some might call app fatigue and creating an all-in-one place that you can go to do peer-to-peer, you can do bill pay, you can manage your finances. We give you ways to connect, for example, a prepaid or debit card directly to Apple Pay, Android Pay. We give you all sorts of ways in which you can load cash to your account using money packs. So we're sort of like this hub technology that uses both fiat and what we're here to talk to you about is our new crypto interoperability technology that we call MovoChain. So we're sort of like the best of all worlds all wrapped up into one simple, easy to use consumer interface. And by the way, I got to tell you, the feedback we're getting from our customers is off the hook. So it's been we're definitely on to something, and the market is telling us so. So we're excited.
Well, then let's jump right into this new feature, MovoChain.
Yeah, so MovoChain, I use the term interoperability, and that's a fancy word for saying that you're working on ways to create on-ramps and off-ramps between cryptocurrency and fiat currency. And the first thing I'd like to do, I know your consumers, your listeners are probably a little bit more sophisticated, but for those that maybe the concept of fiat currency may not make sense, that's what you would call any kind of government-backed or sponsored money is defined as fiat. Crypto, of course, is what we think about when it's Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum and such. And so what we're doing is creating a bridge that allows one to own crypto, no matter how much, and be able to very seamlessly, quickly, through our technology, convert that back into fiat currency through let's call it a cross-pollinated peer-to-peer platform that is not just simply peer-to-peer in a silo. For example, if you own Bitcoin, you can only send somebody Bitcoin who has a Bitcoin wallet. We want to be able to say you can send money out of your Bitcoin wallet to somebody who doesn't have Bitcoin and doesn't have MovoCash and doesn't have any other wallet, but you're now able to send them real money that they can spend in real time wherever Visa and MasterCard are accepted.
And that just makes sense. I think that one of the confusing parts for a lot of people is, okay, we have all these coins, they get, cryptocurrency is decentralized, but then what coins do you buy? And then how do those coins interact with each other? And are you buying the correct coins? And being able to transfer any type of cryptocurrency to and from different fiat currency or to and from different other cryptocurrencies is a huge game changer.
It is. And, one of the things that I say is that like crypto, this whole concept of blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and that whole sort of way in which that ecosystem and universe works has catapulted us years into the future technologically. But there's one important caveat to that. It's thrown us back into the dark ages where fungible currency comes into play. Because if you thought that sort of like Venmo and PayPal and some of these other ledger type technologies were bad, cryptocurrency is worse because you can't spend it anywhere. You are truly locked on to the ledger. There's no way off and back into, no, I shouldn't say no way. Let's put it this way. It's very complicated to get your money back into spendable form where you can use it like what it's supposed to be, that is a currency. So what we've done is build a bridge that very easily, the consumer interface is brain dead easy. You fill out, a couple, few pieces of information, and on the fly, that money is sent either to yourself or to somebody else that can spend it instantly. And we're talking in minutes, not hours, and not days. And that's 24/7. In other words, that bank is open 24/7, including holidays.
Exactly. And that really is where we're moving as a globe, is with these global currencies. It's 24/7, and that's where the future is.
Yeah, so you think about using automated clearinghouse, treasury features and functions. You've got to use them. Between 9 o'clock Eastern time and 4 o'clock Eastern time, and they're closed on the weekends, closed on the holidays. Essentially, imagine that you have a way to use a bridge technology that accomplishes the objective of moving money from one place to another, including the conversion. And essentially, you've just described MovoChain.
That's fantastic. So when did all this get released? Because I only spoke with you a few months ago.
Yeah, you might remember one of the last things I said is, hey, I'm going to come back because we're working on some really cool things. And that was sort of like our parting words. And so we launched, we announced it at Innovating. So that was less than a couple of months ago, when we basically have been very slow. We've been just kind of like easing the word out. And in fact, let me just say it this way, you guys are really sort of our first. We thought we'd come back to you guys since you were so good to us. And, really one of the very first engagements we've had to really push it out there, because we've, kind of been in a live beta is the way we've sort of thought about it. And, we're ready now to go to scale it up. It's ready for mainstream. It's
ready to start playing and be on the big field for sure. Well, thank you for that love. We're all about community here at Future Tech Podcast, and really supporting these futuristic technologies because we really believe in them, and it's so great to hear that people are also feeling the same way about us. So thank you very much.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I really respected the approach that you guys took the first go around. And so, it's all about relationship, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Absolutely. And I think that people lose sight of that when it comes to our future technologies, right? When it talks about blockchain and cryptocurrency or robotics, people are losing that human aspect. But in reality, this is all still being run by people. And so let's look into, the future of the world of finance. And where you kind of see MovoCash and MovoChain going into that future. So
I think that there's a really interesting inflection point that we're at. I've been in fintech, for before they even, like I said before to you, before they even called it fintech, I was doing fintech. And we were working on, into sort of this idea of interledger technologies, and figuring out ways to weave them together to create transaction chains that would produce outcomes that hadn't been seen before. And for example, I was the first CEO to ever use an electronic signature to open a financial account. We did it before Clinton signed it into law, and that tells you how far back that goes. And what's really interesting today is we're seeing now that, e-wallets and the whole sort of like encrypted signatures that are now being used in blockchain, and the evolution of what that e-signature is now morphing into, and the doors that it's opening to really leveling the playing field in this kind of like democratization of financial services. It no longer really is about banked, unbanked, or banked. It's really we all become one, and we're all using better services because we're leveraging technology. And the thing is that in a world where we're going from trustless, right, in terms of like blockchain type hypothesis of, a trustless technology. At the same time, there's this huge wave of trust that people are starting to gain in the types of technologies that are being built and made available to consumers. And I think that's phenomenal because we've all been waiting for that wave the swell to actually develop and happen, where people migrate to using mobile technologies like the types that we're talking about. And it's happening now. It's no longer, a theory. It's actually a fact and gargantuan, there's sort of like a gargantuan pivot away from the traditional ways in which people have thought about banking and payments is happening, and they're moving towards this new sort of way of thinking about managing their finances. And it's exciting to watch it. Being a long-time player in the space, it's really exciting to watch it happen.
And that's how I feel, is that this is just such an exciting time to be in this space, an exciting time to be coming up with these solutions, because this is the ground floor, basically. We're still evolving, and it's almost like what we do now really does have an impact in the future. We're still at that point.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I was looking at Coinbase, and I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it, because I was looking at Coinbase and I was looking how you see Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, and I think there might be one other, whatever. It's like, wow, here we are looking at this is like the largest, most well-known company that sort of is an exchange for cryptocurrencies, and there's 5 of them. It's like looking at the New York Stock Exchange when there were the first 5 companies listed. So yeah, it is an exciting time, and not only that, but when we think about blockchain, and we think about the uses of blockchain, it's kind of moving past just being a technology that's for, to do a cryptocurrency. They're figuring out ways to use it in logistics and healthcare. I can't wait till they start using it at the DMV, so I don't have to go stand in those long lines. I mean, there's just a million ways that it's being used. That the use cases. Let me say it this way. And I'm gonna take a little bit of a step back. The hype is actually ahead of the actual capacity to use it. So let me say that again. The hype of blockchain technologies, actually, it is hype because they haven't really figured it out yet, but we're going to figure it out. And we're on the path to figuring it out. And what it's going to unleash is just truly remarkable. That said, what we're in the early stages, it's really more of what we'll call distributed ledger technology, DLT, that is really being harnessed more in the private sector. And these could be defined as private, they're kind of like private blockchains, right? So the public blockchain versus the private blockchain are 2 different animals. And I think it's important for listeners to understand that, because when you start thinking of how to use those private blockchain technologies, distributed ledger technologies, it opens up some unique doors that are right in front of us to start using. And that's, by the way, I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent here and tell you about what we call HyperBin, which is our own unique blockchain, private blockchain, distributed ledger technology that we're going to be developing even further on top of what I've just described to you as MovoChain. And that's what we'll be calling MovoCoin. And MovoCoin is this idea of being able now to essentially tap into the entire installed base using this interoperability technology that will be able to move money from basically the entire installed universe of bank accounts, debit cards, and even potentially credit cards for moving money from one place to the next. And so anyway, that's sort of how all of that machination of thought comes together in a very specific use case as it relates to how MovoCash is doing it.
Oh, that's fantastic, and just such a great way of looking at things as well. I love that the outlook you guys have towards this new era. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we benefit most from as a company and the culture is that we're really most interested in seeing like people free, right? And it's our vision is really about creating freedom for people. And it's a little bit like one of the things I really respect about Elon Musk is that he said, hey, here's our patents, go use them, go build something better, go build something cool, take it, and that's the whole sort of like culture of cryptocurrency and blockchain and all this open source is it's not about a me, mine. It's about how can we all be in contribution to leaving this world a better place. We live in a time when things are way more complicated than they've ever been in the history of mankind. But if we can, all put our minds together and think of ways to leverage these technologies in our own small way to make the world a better place and to be more inclusive, especially where finances are concerned, since there's so many that for so long have been disintermediated from being able to access even basic financial services, then, we're in our own little world, being a contribution into my way of thinking about it and the way that Movo approaches things. That's what it's all about.
No, that's beautifully put. Very beautifully put. I want to bring attention again to, I think we covered this last time, but you guys are the creators of a new technology. I want to just go a little bit into Hyperbin. You can tell people about that.
So Hyperbin is a technology that without sort of the core foundation of what we do in the more traditional rails, what we're talking about, how we're deploying the use case with MovoChain wouldn't exist. So for example, it's all about the speed at which we're able to do what used to take weeks to accomplish. I'll give you an example. If you were to want to receive, let's say, a prepaid card or a debit card or a credit card, you need to fill out an application. You got to sign it. You got to drop it in the mail. You send it in. Somebody looks at it. They approve it. They send then a file to a fulfillment house. They get the file. They send a card out to you. 10 days later, you get a card. You got to call an 800 number, and then they activate your card. And then, some weeks later, you're finally good to go. Another example might be you got to drive down to the grocery store, buy a Visa or MasterCard off the rack, walk up, load it with cash, and maybe some hours later now you're ready to spend. That was sort of like the next innovation. What we've done is we've converted your mobile device into, essentially, it's got card issuing technology embedded right inside of your mobile device. We turn it into sort of like your own little, card issuing bank, right? You're in control. You can spin up cards on the fly in denominations that you choose. If you're going to buy something online and you're going to spend $30.22, you can use the Hyperbin technology to spin that card up, activated in real time, CVV, expiration date, 16-digit card number, and you're ready to spend that exact amount online or in-store, provisioned to Apple Pay, Android Pay, Samsung Pay, no waiting. And the speed at which we're able to do that is what we, underneath all that capability is the technology that makes up Hyperbin.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, now connecting that back to how we convert crypto, right? So now suddenly somebody, I want to send you, I'll give you an actual example of what happened over the weekend. How about that? Okay, so and this is
Perfect.
My own little universe. All right, here's how it works. So I'm with a buddy of mine. We're in Palo Alto. We're at a little beer pub, and we're going to have a fish sandwich and a couple of beers, okay? So we get done, and I'm going to pay him, we're going to split the bill. And it was like $50 or something, so I owed him $25. So I go into it, and he actually is a Movo, he has a MovoCash account as well. I go into my MovoCash, and I realize that we've been traveling around and so on and so forth. I don't have any money left in my MovoCash account. But I have Bitcoin. So I go into my Bitcoin, and I use MovoChain to send him. I didn't even have to send it to myself. I sent it directly to him, the $25. And within minutes, he hears, I go in, I do it. I go give it a couple of minutes. Wait a couple of minutes. He hears ding, and the $25 is loaded to his card. He pulls out his MovoCash card. and pays the guy behind the counter, and we both get up, walk out. We had a fish sandwich, a couple of beers, and we rode our bikes back to his house. And that's how Hyperbin makes all that happen, working together with the interoperability tentacles that we've created within the MovoChain environment.
Wow, it's so simple, and when you see it in a real life scenario, you can't help but think, yeah, this is the future, and why hasn't this existed before?
And the other thing, the other thing that a lot of that gets sometimes missed in the lost in the equation of it all is that this becomes truly a global capabilities. So when we think about, and by the way, I want to be super clear here, okay, there's a lot of rules and regulations that go into making all this work right, and where we're doing it in compliance with the banking laws and all, money transmitter laws. We've got, we're very thoughtful about that. And we're also very intentional right now about our the way we're expanding this, only available in the U.S. today. But the very exciting part of it is that there is nothing really in our way to expanding globally and around the world with this technology. Nothing. I mean, in other words, using the exact same architecture, I can have this working around the world in pretty short order, right? And when you think about being able to send $50 to Mexico or the Philippines or China or India and have that money hit an account and converted back into fiat currency in the local country and be able to spend it instantly, right, is really remarkable. It really starts to paint the picture of a world that, we all use the sort of old cliche that the world's getting smaller, but it's really getting smaller in that regard, where, the expense and latency of yesteryear and the old banking system and the way we can think about doing it in the future is really just a mind-blowing opportunity.
That's fantastic. Eric, I always love having you on the show, and I'm so happy that you came back to join us and really update us on these wonderful new developments with MovoChain and just really share how it can work for our listeners or for anyone who wants to start getting involved with this and how easy it is.
So they can download the app. We do them in native apps, both iOS and Android. Okay, and then MovoChain.com is where they would go because that's a web app, so you don't have to worry about downloading anything. You own some Bitcoin, you want to send it to somebody, just go into MovoChain.com and you can access it right there. So I want to thank you for having me, and anytime you're looking to fill some slots on your show, know that I'm always able and willing to jump on a call quickly. It was great to be with you again. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Eric. And we will be seeing you maybe in a few more months for another follow-up.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Juliet.
That was Eric Solis. He's the founder and CEO at MovoCash. You can check them out at movo.cash. This has been Juliet Lamar for Future Tech Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.